I shaved for this.
Wonderful. Oh, don't see, I didn't. All right. Says we're live on YouTube. Excellent. Okay. Hi, everybody. Doc Skinner here with 1028 Live. Good evening. It's Thursday, November 29th, and I got a really special guest for you. If you haven't seen the show before, 1028 Live, we cover a lot of the fringe topics, as well as some entertainment as well, too, it's not always so serious. Anyway, we have a lot of guests coming up. A lot of guests coming up, and I'm so honored to have someone who I call my friend, Brooks Agnew, who's going to be joining us as soon as he wants to pop on screen. Ladies and gentlemen, Brooks Agnew.
Good to be here. How are you doing up there?
Oh, it's chilly. Finally, it's getting cool. We had a strong wind today. We're told snow is on the cusp. So that'll be good for the ski resort too. So.
Well, I know we were up there for Disclosure Con, and it was in early October, and it snowed on us.
Right. That was a first.
We had to stay the weekend.
Yeah, that was a first. It's never snowed before Halloween. So the weather, I mean, another time or later we could talk about that as well. But you have your book series, Birth. Now, is that the whole series or just the first chapter's title?
No, all three books are called Birth, and then the subtitles are, let's see, one is called Two Earths, One Race for Time. So this is basically how the two planets begin coming apart. It begins with a kind of cataclysmic event that really opens right in the front of the book. And so it just grabs you, pulls you in the book, and it won't let you go. This started out as a big screen movie in 2011, and it didn't get funded. You know how it's hard to get movies funded. And then in 2015, some of the book, like right in here, started to come true in the news. So I pulled the screenplay out and I wrote this book, and I thought, well, okay, in 6 months, I'll start volume 2. Oh no, that's not what happened. It woke me up in the middle of the night, the very next day, and we wrote The Grand Division. So that's volume 2. As you can see, it's much thicker.
Wow.
In this book, the characters get fully developed. We go into history, and my fictional characters kind of carry you through the history like Forrest Gump. You're right there when everything's happening. And then no sooner did I finish that book, I started volume 3, and it's called The Gathering. It's where the two planets actually come apart, and planet Earth, as you can see here on the cover, goes back through the Milky Way galaxy to its origin. So basically, Birth is about planet Earth, and it's pregnant. It's alive, and it's pregnant, and it's going to give birth to a new Earth. So this is the thriller series. It's 1,100 pages, and it's a white knuckle ride.
Wow. The idea of it being a movie is going to be compelling.
Yeah, because, it has the big screen aspects of it. You see, it's high espionage. There are a lot of chase scenes, a lot of battle scenes. Plus, you fall in love with the characters. You know how when you're generally have...
Oh, there you go. I lost you for a second.
I'll phase in and out through this whole thing. You'll see. You basically have a 3 or 4 plots in all films, right? You have, boy gets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back, and then you have the antagonist, and you have the hero, and that's basically all the plots in all movies. But from there, it gets far more complex. And then, you have good scripts and you have bad scripts. And you have bad scripts with really good directors, and they can take a bad script and really make it great. But a really good script with decent actors, it changes the world.
Oh, yeah.
It changes the world.
Yeah, it does. Who did you have in mind? I mean, is there anybody that you want to put your wish list out there?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a character let me open the story, how it kind of works.
Yes.
The story opens, there are really four things simultaneously happening. You have earth cataclysms that are happening in the Gulf of Mexico, big tidal surges, and it's ripping oil rigs out of the ground. Then you have, on the West Coast, you have at Caltech, this planetary core geologist who's a female, who comes up with this wild theory that Earth is hollow and that it meets all of the criteria basically for a living thing. It respirates, it protects itself against toxins, it responds to consciousness and stimulation. I mean, you're going, wait a minute, isn't that really a living thing? So she's putting forth this planetary core geological theory with her two grad students, and it's not being received very well by the mainstream, religiosity of science. But it turns out to be true. And that interests the president of the United States. And that's really the big story. It's election time, and the two parties, if we really do have two parties, they digest down to the two candidates. You have the Republican, you have the Democrat, and they're getting ready to go to the debates. So they take the big stage, it's all live, the moderator's there, and he asks the one candidate, candidate A, your opponent has raised questions about your ethics. How do you respond to that? Well, he just goes running across the stage and just starts pounding the guy right there live on camera. Of course, the news feed cuts away, but everybody's sitting there with their phones, filming the whole thing. So it's all going out live. And what happens is both candidates tank.
Yeah.
Well, there's a third candidate. Only this candidate doesn't have much money, or he chooses not to spend a bunch of money. What he has done through the entire campaign, he's taken every question that was given to candidate A, the Democrat, candidate B, the Republican, and he answered them himself on YouTube, just by himself, and then just put the YouTubes up there. So what happened was this whole subculture of people that the pollsters knew nothing about, they were watching these YouTube videos and they were going, hey, this guy makes a lot of sense. I like this guy. His name is Robert Riker. So what happens after both candidates get two thumbs down, all of a sudden, this third candidate out of nowhere, Robert Riker, he gets written in and he gets elected president.
Wow.
Well, it turns out that fulfills an ancient prophecy that in the end times, this leader is going to be picked not from the stable of approved candidates, but from some other place. And that's going to be a sign that the end times have finally come. And that's going to be the leader to lead the world through the grand division and the separation. So now you have these parties, and they're all going through their struggles, and they slowly come together through that first book. So that's what really gets things rolling. That's what draws you in to the book. And of course, while that's happening, I'm bringing history in. History of the signing of the Constitution, what went on during the Civil War, what went on during the Great Depression, what went on during World War I and World War II, and all the banking cartels. All that is laid in there underneath. And then I introduce, at the end of the very first volume, sort of like, what was it? The Iron Man movie. It was the Avengers movie when Iron Man goes through the portal, and he delivers the nuclear bomb up there, and it blows up and destroys that ship, and then he falls back down, and the Hulk wakes him back up. After the credits are rolling, you get introduced to Thanos, right? In the credits as the thing's ending. You don't really know who he is. You have to go look it up on YouTube. Who was that guy in the credits? Well, that was Thanos. He's going to be a star in the next movie that was going to be put out. Well, that's what we do in the first volume. We introduce the Nephilim.
Ooh.
Yes, we introduce the Nephilim. These are the fallen angels that came to Earth when man was first put on the planet. They were originally sent to kind of watch over us and, make sure we didn't go extinct before we got a chance to kind of get used to being on Earth. Except they got really hot for female humans, which is an easy thing to do, I'll admit. And they decided to fall and procreated a bunch of giants and screwed the whole thing up. And then the flood of Noah came to try to clean it all up. And then they came back. Well, after they came back, you really didn't hear a whole lot about them because they kind of went underground, but they're still here. So one of the things that the Nephilim probably have the biggest, they're most upset about is they are angel class beings. They're supposed to be, really intelligent, really powerful, but they're limited in how far they can go. Man, however, is cut from a different stock. We're created in a higher image of the Father. So we can actually become greater than the Nephilim, and it makes them angry beyond anything. One of the things that makes them mad is if they kill us, our soul lives on and we come back again in another body. Well, they are around forever, alive, immortal. And what they do is they see us coming back over and over again. It's like Groundhog Day to them. Wait, didn't I kill you 100 years ago and now you're back? So they realize they can't get rid of us that way. The only way that they can win is to capture the souls of men. And so what they do is when these really evil souls come back and they're born again, the Nephilim pick them up and say, here's who you were. Here's what you were good at in your last lifetime. Now we're going to give you the next keys and you're going to become more powerful and richer and wealthier. And we're going to control the world through banking and armies and subterfuge. And we're going to control all the media and we're going to capture the whole earth. And that's their goal. And they're well on their way to doing it. Of course, there are pockets of light here and there. And that's why in the second volume, it's called The Grand Division, because all this is prophesied. That in the last days and end times, what will happen is the race of mankind, which is kind of this homogeneous mishmash of different ages of souls, different light vibrational levels of souls, they begin to separate. And in the last days, the darkness does not comprehend the light. And so that's where we're at right now. Where we're at right now is the pockets of light are beginning to coagulate. They're beginning to coalesce here and there and there. And then the coalescing parts are starting to come together. That's why your program, 1028 Productions, is so important, because there are thousands of people out there that will see this video and they'll say, wait a minute, that resonates with me. And they will become attracted to it. And slowly but surely, these bodies of light will get larger and larger and larger, and the darkness will not comprehend it. And the race of mankind, from all the souls of across the universe that have come here on this earth at this time, because this is really the greatest show in the universe, we're making it happen. And more importantly, we're resonating with Earth itself. Earth, this living, conscious thing, even though it has a different perspective of time than we do, it has a perspective of a planet. For 25,000 light years in every direction, there is nothing like Earth, nothing. I mean, there might be a microbe on the surface of, Enceladus or something, but not the plethora of life that we have here. Earth just spontaneously mixes all of DNA together and makes life happen. Millions and millions of species over tens of millions of years. This is the greatest show in the universe right here. And this is where the greatest souls in the universe come to live a life. And that's why we're here. That's why we are here.
Yeah. Oh, and I believe that everyone here on this planet right now is in a amazing position to experience a moment in history that others won't.
Yeah, more so than ever, because we can drive, we can fly, we can speak instantaneously across thousands of miles, and now there are people listening live over tens of thousands of miles, all at the same time, getting the same message with the same resonance, and it's an incredible time to be alive.
Yeah, one of our viewers, Niz Skywalker, said, "I so resonate with all of this."
Well, there you go. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
When I gave my presentation at the Disclosure Con, The book that I talked about was Remembering the Future. This was the discussion I gave.
Mhm.
And Remembering the Future is based upon mathematical theory. It isn't so much woo-woo, and maybe that's why it's a little bit of a hard presentation to give. But what I do is I have three areas in my presentation, and one of them is the principle of constructive and destructive interference. We started out talking about light, where laser beams can be tuned to one another to cancel each other out. And then when space-time warps through gravitational wave interference, those laser beams change in length, which creates a spot on the detector. And that's how we're detecting the curvature of space-time. Wow. Then we went to sound. You remember the Nigel film that we played?
Yes, yes, I do.
They're using music, and what they're doing is they're showing graphically things like salt on a black plate on a speaker. Yes. Certain frequencies will make the salt make a pattern on that. It's called cymatics. But the film, he just does a spectacular job with the film and the music and the production of it. And it draws people in, and it shows them the idea of what happens when sound works and when sound doesn't work. And then we go from that to the next principle, which is the mathematics of it. And I show how the mathematics with this constructive and destructive interference can create massive resonance energy just from human intention applied at the right time in the right way over and over again. You can create massive changes in the future and in the past. Wow. And I think a lot of people have noticed that we're starting to have these Mandela effects.
I was just about to say, it sounds like a Mandela effect.
This book was written in 2007, and it was written because I went in meditation to the year 2015 from 2007.
Wow.
And I realized we didn't make it. Everything was messed up. The presidency had collapsed. The weather was screwed up. The economy had collapsed. And I thought, I came back to 2007 and I thought, what am I going to do? Why was I shown this? What am I supposed to do? And what came to me was put together this book and teach people how to manipulate the future, how to create a different future. Well, it works in both directions, future and past. Wow. And it wasn't but just a few years, about 2010, we started seeing ripple effects from changes that were made in the past showing up in these Mandela effects. And there are all kinds of little anomalies, but they're caused by people who read this book and learned how to do it. And, now there's 80 million people out there playing with it, and it's really having a massive effect, and it's great.
I've actually firsthand, me and some friends at work, across the street is a law firm. And I don't want to say the name, but the first name, the first letter had changed from an R to an L.
Whoa.
And literally, I mean, we go into work it's across the street. I mean, the signs are all over town. And it was, I don't want to say the name without getting in trouble, but yeah, it's a name that started with an R, 3-letter name, and then it changed to an L. So we kind of freaked out on that. My boss came in and says, "Hey, you guys heard of the Mandela effect?" We're like, "Yeah, why?" And he says, "What's the name of the business across the street, the law firm?" And we said it. He was like, "Yeah, all right, come look." We go out there. Yeah, it changed.
And you said, "Oh, well, they just changed the name on the building, and there goes a bus by with the sign on, and it's changed."
Yeah, and but it's still an old sign.
Yeah,
it's an old sign. So wow. I like to dabble and research all that. It's fun. It's a rabbit hole. But when we witnessed it that day, that's when I was like, okay, there might be something to this, because eventually they're going to have time travel and all this. Someone's messing with something.
Well, I mean, the whole thing about it is the power of observation. In science, we call this the observation effect. And there are some people that kind of picked up on it, with the law of attraction and all of this. And that kind of gets into, I mean, you can go deep down the rabbit hole with this whole thing on the observation effect, like you are manifesting your own life condition, which is true. But you need to learn how to undo some of the scripts, some of the habits that we have over and over again. And there are skills at being able to do that. But when you see large events, like, for instance, in the Birth Trilogy, we talk about the creation of America. America did not exist until 1770, well, actually 1787. 1776, we declared our independence. But up until that time, for, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 years, Earth was pretty much ruled by one guy at a time. I mean, one king and his army pretty much ruled the whole world. There was no such thing as freedom, no such thing as liberty and freedom of choice and freedom of speech. Those things did not exist. And, in those days, everybody learned to read in different ways, but the most common way was to learn to read by reading the Bible or reading manuscripts from the Bible. And it doesn't take too many readings of the Bible. You figure out, you know what, we're pretty much screwed. This whole thing's going to Armageddon. It's all going to get nuked. So what's the big deal anyway? Why don't we just, live it out and take the ride? But the founding fathers said, look, we already know that future. Why don't we choose a different future? Why don't we establish a nation that's based upon inalienable rights, that people are free, they can own their own stuff, their own farm, and they can make their own potatoes or their own corn or their own wheat. And if they have too much, they can sell that. And then they can buy shoes with it or a car with it or whatever they want. And they created this system of independence. Well, the powers that have controlled the earth since, cells were put on this planet, they've been trying to get it back ever since. And they have fought America since 1787.
To today.
We went to war in 1812. We went to war in 1865. We went to war in 1913 and then again in 1939 and then Vietnam and then Korea. And then we're still at war today. They're still doing it. Why?
Yeah.
Because the Nephilim realized that if they can make a man pick up a battle axe and charge across the frozen tundra at someone with hatred in his heart, they have him. They have him. He cannot love if he's, fighting and trying to kill somebody else.
Yeah.
And what they do is they crush this love energy by making men fight. And the crazy thing is that they work with the leaders of all the countries and then the banks and then the industrialists. And they say, well, we'll sell planes to you and rockets to you. And we'll sell ships to you and tanks to you. And we'll make money going both ways. Now y'all go fight for a while. And this is what they've done. And it gets even worse. The Nephilim also created all the world's religions. They created the religions by appearing to various prophets over the ages as beings of light, giving them some special message, which I'm sure makes them feel really special when a 12-foot light being shows up and gives you, a holy message. But then the next direction comes. Oh, by the way, you're supposed to hate all other religions. That's a great plan. Create 6,500 religions and make them all hate each other. Now we're following God by annihilating that religion. And it's a beautiful thing. And that's what the Nephilim have been in charge of. Now, what's happened in the last, I'm going to say 40 years, maybe 50 years, is some of us have lived enough lifetimes that we've seen this pattern over and over and over again. And we're starting to remember who we are. Yes. And we're starting to say, you know what? I think I've transcended this whole religion thing. I think now I have a direct connection to spirituality. And that's why church attendance is dropping the world over. It's dropping because people are realizing that they don't have to go through anybody or any organization to get to God. They have a direct connection. And this is what's changing the future. It's changing the resonation with what's going on with the human race. And we're watching it live. We're in it. You just need to be awake enough to see it.
Yeah. And that's what I want this show to be about, is to help the people that are still asleep,
Right.
Take the red pill and open your eyes. And
well, you realize, and you make a mention of the Matrix. By the way, in March 19th and 20th, I'm going to be in Sedona, Arizona at the Beyond the Matrix Expo. So we're going to be talking about this very thing, that the brilliance of the Matrix series isn't so symbolic. It's kind of real, that we've been plugged into this system that has created for us a fake programmed existence. Yes. I mean, the whole idea of money, that somehow
it's like points.
Yeah, it's like credits
in a game. Credits in a game, exactly.
What was it? Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
where Rocket said, he wanted to be paid in units, whatever that is, But think of it, really, what is the value in life? I mean, the value is sitting down and writing, 180,000 words. That's value. You or whoever reading it and taking in the story and making, alterations or edits in your life, that's value. But in between is money. It's the system of exchange. And what's happened is this cartel, this matrix mentality has said, the money is the real thing. And what's fake are the things on either side of it. But that's exactly opposite. Right. The values on either end of it. The system of exchange is actually worth nothing. It's all a matrix. It's all a game. So if we could pull the plug out of the back of our heads and say, let's create a way to exchange value without money. Oh my goodness. I mean, the drones are going to come after us for sure, because their whole existence is based upon, units, whatever that is. If it's drachmas or rubles or dollars or yen or yuan, it's all the same.
Yeah, we were talking about that on Tuesday with John D'Souza. And by the way, he told me to let you know he loves your stuff.
I like John too. He's a very smart guy.
Yeah. And we were talking about the Wachowski brothers. The urban legend is that they found a DARPA document on the dark web that was titled Matrix, and it was about the Matrix that DARPA was working with or something. I don't know. But the way things we find out later down the line, I'm just not dismissive. It could be true. Who knows? But
well, and I talk about this in the Birth series. In 1933, in 1932, we had a president who was a conservative. He was a Republican. He was trying to cut through the red tape and, unleash the power of America. The roaring 20s were blowing and going, and money was flying everywhere. Business was flying everywhere. Railroads and airplanes and steamships. I mean, we were changing the world, and we'd only been around for, a little over 100 years, 150 years at that time. And the I'll call them the globalists, the people that originally controlled the world. They didn't like it. They didn't like it one darn bit. They didn't like this middle class. So what they did is in 1929, they collapsed the money supply. They just collapsed it. And what happened was, of course, the banks closed, the stock markets crashed, and we had the Great Depression. And a depression is different than a recession. A depression is where things that used to cost $1 now cost a penny, but there's no money because they've collapsed the money supply. So a penny really goes a long way. You work all day long for 25 cents and all the potatoes you can carry home, and you're fine during the Depression.
Yeah.
And they held the whole world there until, way into the mid 1930s. In the meantime, they bring in this flamboyant New York governor, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and they make him president. Of course, Hoover's gone. They destroyed him in the press. So Roosevelt comes in, and the very first thing he does, within literally just months of inauguration, he uncrates this, I call it a dehydrated government in a box. And he starts pulling out these agencies, one after the other. And we went from basically 16, 18 agencies to today, 650 agencies.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Now, we have a government. I mean, we just went through election. My gosh, I still have a rash from this election. But we have a government that we go through all this trouble to elect and we believe represents us in Washington. But the agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations, like you mentioned, DARPA, the CIA, the FBI, the IRS, the FDA, the EPA, they're the ones that write the laws. They're the ones that assess the taxes, that make up the fees, that set up the structure. They're the ones that take our stuff. But we have no representation in that government, none. Well, as it turns out, in the Constitution of the United States, in 1787, when they were ratifying this little baby, they got about 2 days before the end of the convention, and they said, things are actually going pretty well. We've done very, very well. I'm excited about this. We've done a good job. And they were about 2 days away, and they decided to create Article 5. Now, Article 5 in the Constitution is kind of a, in case of emergency, break glass clause. The founding fathers already knew what kings were all about. They already knew how powerful a central government could become. It wasn't very powerful in 1787. I mean, they were doing their best to get this thing ratified. But in Article 5, they decided to put in this safety clause that says, look, in the case that the central government ever gets, really big, where it's controlling everything, the states will have the power to put together their own convention. We'll call it a convention of states. Now, it's going to take 2/3 of the states to actually call the convention. And then once they have the convention and they come up with the amendments that they're going to make and they agree on them, it takes 3/4 of the states to ratify it. Well, I was so moved by this in the year 2012 that I wrote this book called Alienated Nation, A New Path to Liberty. This book in 2012 was a call to action for a convention of states. Like it's been tried, 50, 60 times since 1800s, never gone anywhere. Today, here we are, 6 years later, 2018, we now have 1.5 million followers. We have delegates in all 50 states. We've had 2 conventions. There was debate, but there was also agreement. And we came down to 6 amendments that we want to make to the Constitution.
Really?
Yes. The first one that is supported by 67% of the delegates all across the United States is term limits for Congress and the Senate.
Oh, of course. Yes. I'm cool with
that. It's got
that.
to be done. It has to be done. It's out of control.
They're in there too long, some of them.
Right. And there's too much money wrapped up in it.
Yeah. The lobbyists and the
2 things in the amendment. The first is that we change the congressional term from 2 years to 4 years. Because when in 1787, Congress was a part-time job. You went 4 months, 5 months out of the year, and then you went home to the farm or, to the mine or the factory.
Yeah.
Now it's a full-time job. But when you get to Washington, like they're going to go to Washington in January, but in February, they're going to be right back across the street at the Rayburn building raising money because they got to run again in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to do that for 13, 14, 15 terms.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, it's insane. It's like a money machine. So we changed the term to 4 years. we take half the Congress by state and we stack only half the Congress runs. That way they can at least work for 2 or 3 years before they have to start raising money again. And we limit them to 3 terms. So you're to a primary candidate to run against an incumbent Republican. So that means that if you're going to run against an incumbent Republican, you got to raise all your own money, which means you got about a 0% chance of beating somebody already in office, unless you're of the other party. It's rigged. It's rigged. So that this amendment changes all that. And it brings the elected officials back into accountability. The second is a balanced budget amendment, except in times of war. If we're not at war, we haven't actually declared an official war, the budget has to be balanced. No more deficit spending.
Yeah.
The third, and this is a hugely powerful amendment. There's a lot of debate on this amendment. I mean, a lot of debate, but it's called the Commerce Clause amendment. And what it is all about is taking all those agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations and saying, you no longer have federal authority. You cannot write regulations in New Mexico that affect business in Rhode Island. Can't do it. Yeah. You can't write a federal law unless Congress does it. The regulators can no longer, EPA cannot say one rule fits the entire country. It has to be done by states, state councils, regional districts. And that's gonna remove a lot of the power of the globalists, because you know the way the agencies work, right?
Well, for those that don't, why don't you let them in on it?
Okay, you have a global multi-billion-dollar corporation, and they have executives, upper level managers in this corporation. Let's say they make automobiles. And so we take this executive and we say, all right, you're going to go serve in the Department of Transportation. You're going to go be a public servant for 5 years. So you're going to leave this car company and you're going to go work in the Department of Transportation, because who knows better about cars than us, right? We build cars. But your job while you're in the Department of Transportation is to stop anybody from competing against the company you came from. Now that's called fascism. That is the core of fascism. Fascism means that government actually owns or is controlled by the corporations.
Yeah.
You're going to say, all right, we're going to take, what did we have at one time? 45 different media corporations. We now have 6. And one of them is owned by Bezos. Amazon owns one of the media outlets. So all you really have to do is get these 6 guys in one room and you control all the press, except of course for us here on this
right
station.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So what we've seen is, and I resonate with your viewer, is we've seen this desire of people to say, I want to hear the truth. I want to hear something that sounds close to the truth, which I'm not getting from, the news actors. I call them news actors because they read the script that's drawn up for them. I mean, we think that these people are coming up with their own ideas, but they're not. They're reading a script.
No.
We don't have a script here, do we, Doc?
No, definitely not.
This is unscripted news,
right?
Unscripted political thought. So you're really getting the truth here, because this is free speech. And what's happening is people are saying, you know what? I agree with that. That makes sense to me. Or this doesn't make sense to me. But now you're getting a viewpoint. You're getting something that's independent, something that's real. And you're starting to wake up. You're starting to break the wax or the clay off of your eyes so that you can see. And it's slow at first. I mean, you all don't know this because you're just watching this beautiful, smooth video that we're putting together. But you don't realize how hard this is, what we're doing right now. This is not technologically easy at all.
No, it's not, as I've come to find.
Now, it's getting better. But you see, we're not tech gurus. what we need is something that 4 or 5 clicks, we can make this happen.
Right.
It isn't that easy right now. So there are not many people doing what we do right now, maybe a few dozen, and that's it. But there should be hundreds and hundreds of people doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because
But I have to say that Zoom, if you're listening, thank you, because this has been the easiest program to work with. Not that it's
absolutely.
easy, but in comparison. So,
Yeah,
well, shout out to
relatively
Zoom.
speaking, only 6 pages of incomprehensible directions instead of 20
Yeah.
that don't work.
Right.
It's not easy to do. We make it look easy because we're professionals.
Absolutely.
So, this is what will work. So I want to get back to the birth trilogy, because now I've talked about the Convention of States and all the nuts and bolts things that we're making happen with the printed word. And this is really how we're changing the world. I got done with the birth trilogy. You got this heavenly feeling when you're finished with it. You have a wonderful feeling. You understand life, you understand death, you understand your meaning, your place, your purpose for humanity, for your many, many lives, and now this new awareness that you have. And my readers were writing to me and saying, "Oh, you have to write a sequel. You got to write a sequel." And I was, honestly, it wasn't that I was played out, not at all. It was that I didn't think I could write something that was entertaining about, Lost in Space. I mean, you got to have conflict. You have to have an antagonist, and
Good guys, bad guys. Yeah.
there's no bad guys on this heavenly Earth that's going back through the Milky Way galaxy. So that would be like pretty boring pretty quickly. So I decided to write a prequel instead. What happens before the birth trilogy? How did we get to this stage? How did the cabal, this mass of wickedness, how did it come to power? Who runs it? Where did it come from? And so what I did is I wrote this prequel that was a political thriller. It is called Charm of Favor, and I'll tell you how it got its name before I show you the cover. We were on chapter 4 of the book, and by the way, everything in this book is true. I have fictional characters that take you through the events, but every event is true. Every murder, every bit of subterfuge, it's all true crime, all true crime.
But the names have been changed.
No, I didn't change the names.
Oh.
Nope. I only changed one name, and that's because the guy who was the auditor was afraid, and he asked me to change his name, so I did. And it doesn't really make any difference because that's not the important part. He didn't commit a crime. He only uncovered the crime. So we were watching James Comey testify before the Senate committee. This is how real this book is. We're just right out of the news, right out of real stuff. And I realized he's lying. And my editor's watching, and she says, he's lying. And we said, yeah, he's lying. And you know what? Congress knows he's lying, and Comey knows he's lying, but nobody did anything. Nobody picked up on it. Nobody said, you know what? You're lying to us. So my editor said the strangest thing. She said, it's like he has a charm of favor on him. I said, a what? She said, like witches that can put a charm of favor, like a spell on somebody. So when they go into a conflicting situation, like they're going to be arrested or they're going to be tried before a judge, everybody in the courtroom suddenly becomes their friend. It's a charm of favor. And that became the name of the book. So it is called Charm of Favor, a true story of the rise of the Clinton crime syndicate. Yeah, this is a terrible book in the sense that every murder, all the graft, all the drug cartel, all the blackmail, all the bribery, everything in this book is real. And it's almost 500 pages. This book is destined to be a big screen movie. You remember the movie that just came out a little while ago? It was called American Made, or Made in America. And it was the story of the Mena, Arkansas drug running operation that was being run by the airplane pilot, and it was played by Tom Cruise.
Yes, yes.
Yes, that was a real story. It was based on a book called Compromised: Clinton, Bush, and the CIA. I read this book in like 97, I think, 96 or 97 it came out. So they made a movie at the end of the movie. But the point is that all that drug cartel cash was real. They even mentioned Bill Clinton's name in the movie, And the district attorney that was trying to prosecute him for running these the drugs back from Colombia and the cash down to them and the guns down to them. She gets a phone call in the courtroom while they've got him. They're going to arraign him. The state police are there. The FBI is there. He's in handcuffs. And she gets a phone call. And she answers the phone. And it's Bill Clinton on the other line. And he's the governor. And he says, you'll let this guy go. And she goes, but we have him. We've got him red-handed. We've been trying to capture this. The FBI, he's here. And Bill Clinton said, you let that guy go. Wow. And so they did. They let him go. Now, what we tell you in the book is true. That district attorney was later taken out in the woods and shot in the back of the head. And she was pregnant.
Oh my God.
I am not kidding. This is the crime family we're dealing with. Now, years later, I am working as a quality engineer, writing process guides to prepare a bank called Wachovia Bank to be purchased by Wells Fargo. You remember that acquisition was taking place.
Yeah, I do.
I was at Wachovia. I was at their bank doing the capturing the processes and writing process guides and getting the bank ready to sell. And Wachovia gets busted for laundering $329 billion in drug cartel cash. Oh, yeah. It was so rife. What they were doing, they used to bring the cash in pallets to the bank in Mexico, but it became a visual thing. And so they created a special box. They had a special box made, like a box. And the box, they could stack $100 bills, just so many in them. And the box would fit through the teller window. So they could launder the cash quicker into the bank without all the visual.
Wow.
So they were taking in the cash into Mexico, laundering it through a bank in Southern California, and then wiring the money to a bank in Suffolk County, New York. Well, the auditor, anyway, Wachovia gets busted. They get fined. Wells Fargo takes the acquisition, and you think, okay, well, all that went away. Well, it didn't. Some years later, it was about 2004, 2005, right in there, somewhere in there, maybe 2006. No. It was like 2009 or 2010. I remember now. Wells Fargo takes on a new board member, a brand new board member, smooth talking guy. Wells Fargo gets audited, and the auditor is looking for bank accounts that have been opened that do not have enough identification, no birth certificate, no social security number. Banks do this because they get commissions for how many accounts they open up. And so a lot of tellers, a lot of bank officers
let it slip by.
They'll just open up phony accounts to make the commission, make the bonus, right? The odd thing was when the auditor went to check on the accounts were receiving money, lots of it, and they were wiring money out. Nobody on the account, incomplete names, incomplete identification, no addresses, no birth certificates. I mean, you can't do that. There were thousands of them, thousands of these accounts. So the auditor decided to do a trace on the wire. Where's the money coming from? Where's the money going to? Guess what? Coming from the same bank in Southern California. They didn't even change banks. They kept that operation rolling. So
Wow.
Wells Fargo, he takes this 1,000-page dossier and he takes it to the district attorney in Suffolk County, and he says, "Here's what I found. I've never seen anything like it. It's billions in drug cartel cash. They're laundering it through phony accounts and wiring it somewhere. I can't find out where it's going, but it's criminal. And I'm turning it in, and I'm changing my name. I'm dropping my cell phone in the East River, and I'm out of here."
Wow.
So the district attorney has this evidence, names, dates, places, fingerprints, everything. But she meets with the board member of Wells Fargo. And Wells Fargo says, "Look, this is really unfortunate that this has been going on. This is not what our bank is about. We're going to turn over a new leaf. What do you recommend?" And the district attorney said, "Well, what we'll do is we'll file a notice of deferred prosecution, and you pay a $1.2 billion fine, which basically the cost of doing business. Mm-hmm. And we'll just put you on probation for a while." And so the board member said, "Well, what we'll do is we'll take the officers that were responsible for this and we'll transfer them to other banks. We'll reduce their bonuses a little bit, but nobody got arrested. Nobody got fired, and they didn't stop doing it at all." Now, here's the crazy thing. A few months later, that board member gets plucked out of Wells Fargo Bank, and he is made head of the FBI. His name, James Comey.
Wow.
Oh, by the way, the district attorney that filed the notice of deferred prosecution, she gets plucked out of Suffolk County, New York, and gets made the attorney general. Her name, Loretta Lynch.
What?
Oh, yes. That is all factual. It is all real, and it is in the book Charm of Favor. This book has the power to bring the entire cabal to jail. I promise you, it is an indictment from cover to cover.
Wouldn't it be wild? And this book is out, right?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it be funny if it was a part of the sealed indictments?
5 days after I put it out, it was #2 on Amazon.
Wow. Wow. Well, you know, somebody working on that investigation with all those indictments, one of them's read your book.
It's kind of funny because when I started writing it, I actually got pretty close to getting it ready to publish in October of 2016. I'm sorry, October of 2017. And in October of 2017, an individual on October 28th made his first post, and he became known as Q.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Let's go down that hole.
Now, do you remember what Q's first post was?
I could pull it up. I have the page set, but you want to hear something cool? The first post was on 10/28.
Yes, it was on October 28th, which is your birthday, which is 10/28 Productions.
Correct.
So here's the crazy thing. The first post was about a Supreme Court decision where the Supreme Court ruled that enemy combatants of the United States that are American, whether they're on American soil or foreign soil, can be arrested, tried, convicted, and sentenced by a tribunal, even if they're not military. Enemy combatants who are American citizens, whether in the United States or on foreign soil, can be arrested, tried, convicted, and sentenced.
Wow.
That was the Supreme Court decision. That was the first post of Q. Now, flash forward to October of 2018, and Judge Brett Kavanaugh is being grilled by the Senate committee. Everything is going along as pretty much everybody expected. The Democrats are grandstanding, running for president, and they're not asking any questions of Brett Kavanaugh. And the Republicans are grandstanding, and they're not asking any questions of Christine Blasey Ford. And this goes on for 3 weeks. We don't get anywhere until Lindsey Graham takes the microphone and he says, asks a series of questions of Brett Kavanaugh. Well, we're all going, wait a minute. A Republican is actually going to ask a question of Brett Kavanaugh that's meaningful. Yeah. So Lindsey Graham says, are you familiar with the Supreme Court decision where American citizens, either on American soil or on foreign soil, can be arrested by a military tribunal? He says, yes, I am. He said, are you aware that these people that are arrested can be tried in a military tribunal by military judges? Yes, I am. Are you aware that after they're tried, they can be convicted by this tribunal? Yes, I am. And are you aware that they can actually be sentenced by this tribunal? And Brett Kavanaugh says, yes, I am. 1 year after Q made his post. And guess what? It went over everybody's head at the committee. No Democrat asked a question. No Republican asked a follow-up question. Totally out of context for the entire hearing. And yet Lindsey Graham puts this in the record. That's why Brett Kavanaugh is there. And that's what's getting ready to go on behind the scenes. Military tribunals are going to try the Clinton crime syndicate as military combatants against the United States of America.
I just don't know what to say because it scares the heck out of me. But it's where it's heading, and so many people to this day still don't think, oh, everything's fine. You know, there's a game on Sunday. You know?
Well, the interesting thing is, and it's only a matter of time before this begins to come to a clarion, call. The left has been doing this for months and months and months. They're basically saying, look, all this is our political enemies of Trump, and he's being a dictator, and he's wanting to go after his political enemies. Well, it's sort of like saying a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square.
Right.
They are political enemies of America, of Donald Trump, but that's not the reason they're being prosecuted. They're being prosecuted because they're criminals. They're being prosecuted for laundering drug cartel money. They're being prosecuted for shipping weapons, intelligence, and money to enemies of the United States that resulted in the death of Americans on US soil and foreign soil. They're being prosecuted because they cheated the US Treasury out of hundreds of billions of dollars. Here's how it's done. The agency, whatever it is, let's say it's the Department of Energy, they go to a company and they say, we're going to give you a grant for $25 million. Not a big grant, but how did you get that grant? You didn't get the grant because of any special qualification or any demonstration of technology. That has nothing to do with it whatsoever. How they get the grant is they make a pledge. They make a pledge to a bundler. A bundler is a person that gathers up money and gives it to the different committees, either the DNC or the RNC. In this case, it's the DNC, and it's been done this way since 1848. I've got the factual evidence, but here's how it's done. Let's say the company A is going to be given a $25 million grant. So they make a pledge that they will take 10% of that money, $2.5 million, and they will donate it back to the DNC. So taxpayer money, your money, my money, is given to company A. As soon as the money hits their bank account, they turn around and write a check for $2.5 million to the DNC. So what they've done is they've taken your tax money and laundered it back to the DNC. $0 goes to the RNC, nothing, not a penny. All the money goes to the DNC. Now I'm going to give you the name of Company A. Company A receives $56 million a year from us, from the U.S. taxpayer. $56 million a year.
A military complex company?
Nope. Nope. They turn around and write a check I'm sorry, they receive $500 million from you and me, 500 million bucks a year. They then turn around and write a check for $56 million to the DNC every year. And that company's name is Planned Parenthood. Now you know why the Democrats don't want Planned Parenthood defunded. Now you know why the Democrats want us paying for all those abortions, because they get the money. They're taking taxpayer money and laundering it into their campaigns. And it goes on all across the board. Energy, education, drugs, food, everything.
Oil. Yeah.
Oh, oil. Don't get me started there. The oil companies control a little tiny company called the EPA.
Yeah.
You know when the EPA was founded? Do you know who founded the EPA?
No, who?
Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon founded the EPA, and guess who he put in charge?
Who?
A man named, and this, I'm sure you're going to remember this name, William Ruckelshaus. No, you don't remember that name?
Ruckelshaus. No, surprisingly. Do tell.
Head of the EPA in its opening, during this period of time, he uses the power of the EPA through the Department of the Interior to seize control of all the forest lands west of the Rockies and all of the subsurface water, all the water west of the Rockies, all the water from the Colorado all the way to California, all the water. Then he is plucked out of the EPA by Nixon and he's made Attorney General. That was during his whole impeachment thing. He resigns as Attorney General, and guess who goes to work for? A little company that he owns, a little 3-letter company called BFI. Ever hear of it? A little company out of Houston.
I'm thinking trucks or
trash.
Trash. Okay.
Trash. If you have a trash can emptied in the United States of America, BFI gets a piece of that action.
What?
It's the biggest mob operated operation in the entire world. Trash in the United States. Well, that's William Ruckelshaus.
Yeah, I know in Dallas Fort Worth, the trash guys, they get paid well, especially if they've been there for a while, close to 3 figures, 100,000 in some cases.
BFI bought out Waste Management. BFI bought out all its competitors. That is William Ruckelshaus. He was the CEO of that company.
Wow.
So he controlled the water. They seized under Obama. By the way, he worked for Nixon. He worked for Carter. He worked for Reagan. He worked for Clinton, and he worked for Obama. During his reign, they seized 770 million acres of private land in the United States. It now belongs or is under the control of the federal government.
Bureau Management.
Yep. Yeah. BLM. Well, BLM is actually the militant arm. It's actually the Department of the Interior that controls all that land. But the BLM is actually the military arm, the mercenary arm of the Department of the Interior. You think ICE gets a bad rap in the press? They don't even touch the BLM. The BLM are terrorists. They're terrorists. They have beat people, burned people out of their house, burned their animals, made them die of thirst by fencing off water so that cattle would die. BLM has seized forest land, pasture land. They're the militant arm that seizes all of the national parks, all of the national monuments. Anytime a big resource is found like coal or gold or lithium or vanadium, they make it a national park or a national monument, and the federal government controls it.
Mind blowing. I didn't
know
they had that much. I mean, I know if you've seen the Simpsons movie, they have the EPA in there, making it fun of it. And I hadn't put all those dots together until you just mentioned this now. But
it's funny, when I was working on Charm a Favorite, that's exactly what it was like. It was like, wait a minute, I started putting the dates together, and like when Comey was made head of the FBI, and he came from Wells Fargo, and he was at Wells Fargo when the drug cartel money is. And before that, he was at Lockheed Martin. And Hillary Clinton was feeding him billions and billions of dollars worth of contracts to Lockheed Martin. And it was Comey. It was him that was managing all that money coming in. And, then he turns out to be head of the FBI, and it comes time to prosecute Hillary Clinton, and he's not going to do it.
Wow. If you want to win the game, you got to run the game, I guess.
You got to control all the angles. And that's why when you see, somebody come to the microphone and they're guilty, that people got murdered, that the missiles, rockets, grenades got taken from one country, put on a ship and shipped to another country. And all of a sudden we have a war in that country. What's going on. But then you see them appear before the microphone with that smug smile on their face, like they've made a deal with the devil.
Which in this case they did, yeah.
Now you know why.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Everybody that knows me, I'm a talker, but you've kept me quiet. I'm just flabbergasted on the knowledge you dropped on me tonight, and everyone that's watching.
Well, you can get all these books a couple ways. The easiest way is to go to Amazon. Just put in my name, Brooks Agnew, and all my books are there. I got 10 books in print. And here's the deal. Any of these books that you buy, right on the inside, you're going to find an email address that you can write. And I will send you the audio version of all these books for free.
Wow.
So if you're not a good reader, don't worry about it. I read it for you.
Wow. And I'm stoked about this movie. Just sounds epic. Epic. Well, I really am. I'm a talkative person, but I'm just kind of like a little numb right now of all the dots that got connected tonight. So you said you have some other events that you're going to be at and some other shows on.
Oh yeah. Of course, we've got the Beyond the Matrix Expo, the 19th and 20th in Sedona. Actually, that's a very affordable one, very affordable. And if you're anywhere close to Sedona, you know how magical that place is anyway.
Yes. You don't even have to believe in all that stuff to feel it. When you drive over that mountain into Sedona, it's just a big painting. It's gorgeous.
Yep. And, when you get me and Maureen St. Germain and the other speakers that are there, it's just going to be a special experience. If you're going to be there, you should make the effort to be there.
Right. Okay.
And then right after that, in April, in Vegas, I'm going to be the keynote speaker at the 5D Humanity event. And that's going to be enormous, 36 speakers. But there's only 3 event rooms, which is kind of nice. Some of these we go to, they have like 12 event rooms. And if some rock stars in room 9, no one else has any audience.
Right.
But in this one, there's only 3. 2 rooms seat 100, and one of the rooms seats 300. And I promise you, when I do the Remembering the Future presentation, you've seen it.
Yes.
I do it in that room with those big speakers in that 300-person room. It is going to rock your socks off, man. It is an amazing experience.
All right. So I'm going to write on my magic board those dates one more time.
You don't have to. Just go to my website, brooksagnew.com, and click on the presentations or the upcoming events tab, and it's right there. You don't have to remember anything. The buttons are there to register. You'll learn all about it. You can watch videos. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff there. brooksagnew.com. Very easy.
Wow.
That's all you have to remember.
Wow. And are you going to be on any other talk shows coming up?
Oh my gosh.
In case somebody didn't catch it live on this show, they could probably catch you live on another show and ask questions or something.
Every Monday and Wednesday, I'm on from 7 to 9 Eastern on Truth Frequency Radio Network on a program called Quantum Connections. And then Sunday nights from 8 to 11 Eastern is X Squared Radio. Mm-hmm. I've been on there 14 years. we've become, in that time slot, we are the #1 talk radio program in the entire country.
As Art Bell would say, oh, yes.
Yeah, oh, yes. And what we do is we begin the news week Sunday night. So I have a lot of junkies that on Friday at, I don't know, 6 o'clock is the last live, talk radio. Everything else then is just repeated over the weekend. But Sunday nights, we break ground. We stretch out into the future. We bring those stories to X Squared Radio. Of course, you get my commentary on them. And then at 6 a.m. the next morning, Breitbart Radio picks up on it, then Rush Limbaugh, then Sean Hannity. And it's like they listen to my show on Sunday nights, and that's what drives the headlines for the next week. So if you want to get a jump on it, you want to know where you're at, and you want to be able to call in live, that's the place to be. X Squared Radio, Sunday nights, 8 to 11.
Very nice. Also, I wanted to just you're still coming to Disclosure Con, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't miss it. I'm camping out if I have to get a ticket to that one.
Yeah, no, I know somebody that has passes, so.
Listen, you guys really missed something there because it was magical. This is the first year of Disclosure Con. It was at the Honda Resort.
Honda.
Honda.
Yeah.
I want to say Honda.
People confuse it with the car, but it's HON-DAH. Yeah.
It's a really great place. I mean, here you are in Pine Top, Arizona, and the rooms are great. The pool is great. The facility is great. The food is, everything is great. It's just a really, really nice facility. Very reasonable. And we had a very special connection. Yeah. It was like, we were really surprised. You had over 1,000 people came through the door, right?
Yeah, over the weekend. And what was most magical for me was after we tore down everything on Saturday night, we all went and had we were supposed to do for something with the VIPs, which is going to be a fireside chat under the stars with the celebrity speakers. But like you said, the snow came in.
It snowed.
We couldn't even see the sky, so it didn't really matter. And
it was funny because they knew something, because they had this giant fireplace.
Oh,
and the day before it snowed, they went in and swept out the fireplace and they cleaned out the flue. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Wonder why they're doing that.
Yeah.
Because the next night we had this roaring fire there. We had this great, awesome meeting with all of the speakers, except for a couple, right there in front of that fireplace. And it was great. It was just awesome.
And that was, Travis had his guitar, didn't he, that night?
No, that was it. That was the night before.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We even had sing-alongs. It was, you don't want to miss Disclosure Con. We have fun. So, man, I'll tell you, Brooks, thank you so much for coming on my show.
Oh, man.
And you got more coming. You like me, you got your hands in everything. So I hope to have you back more than once, several times if possible.
Anytime.
We're almost at 2 hours. So, which is cool, which is great. But I would like to talk to you next time about some of the other things going on around the world.
Sure.
I was hoping to get into that, but this was just a eye-opening interview. So thank you.
We can talk about energy, or we can talk about, what's going on with, weather.
Well, let's do this. Let's do this. I do the show every Tuesday and Thursday night. Let's shoot for later December. I'm thinking about Thursday, December 27th, doing an end of the year prediction type show.
Ooh, I like it.
A little nod to Art Bell. He's the reason why I'm here. I grew up listening to him,
sure.
And when he left for a period of time, I thought, well, I'm gonna build a computer and take up the reins. And the night I was gonna do it on my birthday, 10/28. Art Bell comes back on the air
from the Philippines.
Yeah, exactly. So I let the man do what he does best. But anyway, so that I want to do a little thing, something like that, and maybe we can have you on, because this program allows me to have up to 100 people to log in.
Wow, so
if we had No, that's not gonna be fun. Anyway, if what we could do is get several guests and just do one at a time and have them do an update, what's going on with them, their prediction
Sure.
of the upcoming year. Be a fun little end of the year show. So if you're game,
Yeah, absolutely. Count me in.
excellent. Well, that'll be Thursday
I
the
might wear a tie
27th.
that night.
Well, yeah, I'm actually gonna wear. I'll be wearing the red sweater my mom got me because it'll be Christmas time.
Christmas sweaters.
Yes, yes. And I think I'm going to be doing a solo show on Christmas. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But thank you again for coming on the show.
Hey,
And
my pleasure.
now I got to do the things that I got to start doing. I want to tell you all about, if you don't know, you ever seen Recoil magazine? They're the gun magazine. They have I don't want to say an offshoot, but help me out, Brooks. What's the word I'm looking for? Not an offshoot.
Like a
branch off.
subsidiary.
Subsidiary. Thank you. This is called Off Grid Magazine. Look at this vehicle.
Wow.
The family and their own armored vehicle. I'm going to see if I can get this at my Survival Prepper Expo, May 25th and 6th at the Honda Casino.
10-ply self-inflating tires.
Right. And yes,
it reminds me of a G. Gordon Liddy commercial he used to have on when he was out here. He said, "Does your SUV fall apart like a daisy smack with a 9-iron?"
Well, they're going to be a part of the expo, and
oh wow, that's cool.
Yes. So I'm working with them on that. I'm pretty excited about it. Got storable food companies and a bunch of groups right now and vendors, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to have it free to the public. So yeah, nice. The floodgates will be open. And of course, this is a mountain town community. We're all about prepper and survival stuff. So survivalprepperexpo.com, check that out. The website will grow as it goes. And then I've got to
have a store. You can have a store at this website where you can buy, survival stuff and prepper stuff.
No. This is an event. This is a big convention.
Yeah, so are people going to be selling stuff like a big gun show, or? Yeah,
minus the guns. Because they already have gun shows up here. I don't want to upset another gun show guy. So it'll be, survival gear, prepper bags, solar, wind.
Cool.
You name it. They're actually bringing, I don't remember the gentleman's name off the top of my head, but they're bringing an escape and evade specialist who's going to come and teach us some things. So it looks like we will be having speakers there as well. But disclosure, I'm going to have to work on that and update everything for the upcoming year. So I have you, John D'Souza, and I have a few others, but until they say yes verbally, I don't want to announce anybody. So thank you again, Brooks. I'm so glad to call you my friend. You're an amazing man. You too, sir. Wow, I can still do that. All right. Well, folks, thank you for watching 1028 Live. The guests are lining up, and we're going to have some amazing shows. We're going to have Brooks back on a regular basis if I can make it happen. So I'm giddy. I'm giddy as a schoolboy. I love it when I've learned something new. I get all excited. And why is it when after you graduate college and school is so tough, now you want to be a sponge? That's me. So this is, and folks, this is what I do on an everyday basis. I'm talking to people like Brooks and John and others, and I'm so glad that I'm able to share these conversations with you. So I hope you all learned something as well. So, and until next Tuesday, thank you, everybody. Good night. Brooks, I'm going to end this because I'm still learning all these bells and whistles. I'll give you a call in a bit.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good
night, everybody.